What's up, everyone? Welcome to my corner of the internet. I'm your host, Ryan Cramer, and this is Crossover Commerce, presented by PingPong Payments, the leading global payments provider helping sellers keep more of their hard-earned money. Hey, what's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in, and happy Friday. I'm your host, Ryan Cramer, and welcome to Crossover Commerce. This is episode 128 of this wonderful show that I've created. This is my corner of the internet where I bring the best and brightest in the Amazon and e-commerce industry to help you grow and share their insights on the most important aspects of selling online. That being said, this show is presented by PingPong Payments presents with Crossover Commerce. I'm going to get this correct here on a Friday. PingPong Payments actually transfers more than $150 million a day for over 1 million customers now worldwide, helping cross-border payments now to over $90 billion in payments. That being said, how does that affect you? I'm glad you asked. That you can pay your VAs, your suppliers, your manufacturers, freight forwarders, which we'll talk about today, all in local currency. Why is that beneficial? Put margin back to your bottom line. It's free to use. It's easy to sign up. You can actually click on the show notes below where you can sign up for a free ping pong count a day. That being said, thank you, PingPong Payments, for sponsoring Crossover Commerce. But why I'm excited today, besides being Friday, it's the weekend leading up to the Prosper Show, which we talked a little bit about on our last show with Eitan Wiener he's now with Gatito, who's the co-founder of Prosper Show. We were talking about getting back with in-person events, but why I'm excited about today is not just because we'll talk about events a little bit, but because of the freight and logistics aspect of what is going on in the world today. So I've been really focused on finding the right individuals and people in the space who've done it both in years past, but also decades and past. And they actually they don't just talk the talk, but they really do walk the walk because they've lived there, they've been there, they're helping out customers get their goods to their warehouses effectively, efficiently, and cost effectively. And that's what this is all about. We had a webinar yesterday when we were talking about 80/20 sourcing, China sourcing. And then also we were talking with Alibaba directly about how to effectively take what 2020 barriers threw at us and how we can overcome those effectively today and what applications we can do that. So I was really excited to talk to those individuals, but this is no exception with today. His name is Burak Yolga. He is from Forceget Digital Freight Forwarding. Obviously, we want to know about working with freight forwarders. I personally think the concept is a little confusing. Freight forwarding, what does that mean? Right? We're going to get into that. You might be thinking, what's the difference between a freight forwarder, a logistics third-party warehouse, working directly with the supply and manufacturer? All these different questions we're going to get answered today. So that being said, I want to welcome to Crossover Commerce, Burak Yolga of Forceget. Burak, welcome to Crossover Commerce. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Ryan. I'm doing fantastic. Yourself?
Man, it's Friday, like we were saying. You're down there in beautiful Miami, which is no place that I'm thinking worldwide anyone would rather be, besides in the summer when it's hot. It's all get out. It's probably humid down there right now, if I'm gonna guess. But it's it's very similar up here in the Midwest where I'm located. But that being said, you're in Miami right now, but you're an international man, right? We were just chatting before we hopped on live that you just had your birthday and you've never spent it outside of China on your birthday. That's what you were mentioning?
Yes, correct. I mean, I moved to Miami 3 years ago, and I lived in China 7 years before I moved to Miami, Florida. And my birthday is April, and people who travel to Asia for Canton Fair, Hong Kong Electronic Fair, Toy Fair, people know that it's the biggest exhibitions in Asia time, like in every April and every October. So this year, first time I actually had my birthday outside of China. So that was a little bit weird for me. I was like, should I go back to China or not? Unfortunately, I cannot go now, but I'm hoping to be back. People who do business with China and who travel for Canton Fair or Hong Kong trade shows, they know the excitement to meet the suppliers in person, compare the prices, sourcing new products. It's very, very important for e-commerce sellers especially since the competition is growing, market is growing as well as competition is growing. And unfortunately, the margins are people don't have enough margins as they had 3-4 years ago, especially because of the freight cost increase a lot. Like I would say 300 to 400% compared to 2 years ago. So I think that's something that we will be talking about more today. But there are a lot of things going on in the global world, especially in China. So I think a lot of people are curious about what's going to be next, especially if fourth quarter is coming.
Absolutely. So with we just passed the midpoint of this year. We're going to be going into Q3. We're in Q3 going into Q4. Lots of people are already planning their strategies here going into 2022. If you're smart, you're planning out that strategy. But that being said, before we get into it, how tough is it for an industry like yourself? I'm assuming you're traveling as often as once every couple of weeks, if not more. What's it been like being either stuck in one location and helping your customers just from one locale instead of traveling around and being boots on the ground?
I think, that's a very interesting question because there are a lot of cons and pros. I think what happened like last 1.5 year with the pandemic, I heard that e-commerce business is actually booming because a lot of people who are home, they decided to start their own business. They decided to do some startups. So from that perspective, I think it's been a very interesting year. There are a lot of new ideas, fresh ideas. I think that's great for people. Excuse me, a lot of people try to enter something new business, new ideas, some anything. On the other hand, for people who actually do physical business like e-commerce, like wholesalers, it's been a very tough year for them because we never had a pandemic. We didn't know what to expect, and nobody thought that it's going to be like that year. I think we had the first case in the United States like last year in March, so everybody was thinking it's going to be maybe a 1 or 2 months thing, but then it was right after the Chinese New Year, so a lot of people didn't expect that New Year was going to extend almost to 2.5 months or 3 months. So nobody actually planned their inventory. Nobody knew that it's going to be like 3 months close. And most of the private label or a lot of wholesale companies, they work with China, Korea, Taiwan. Now a lot of companies are, as you know, Chinese market is getting expensive because of the RMB, because of the raw material prices increase. A lot of people are looking for an alternative markets, like trying to go to Vietnam. If you're in the textile, you go to India, Bangladesh, or East Europe, Turkey. I'm originally from Turkey, so a lot of my friends who are in the textile business, they're asking for some options. So for people who wanted to start something new, that was a great year. People had a lot of time. But with the people with the existing business, they suffered a lot, especially e-commerce sellers. The prices increased, the international logistics delay a lot. So the cash flow, it's becoming more and more crucial for a lot of companies and a lot of people. You used to have, let's say you were producing a microphone and now you place an order at your factory in China. It used to take like a month, 30 days to produce, then ship it to United States or Europe, like let's say 20 to 30 days, and then it goes immediately Amazon FBA warehouse, and you start selling, and you get paid, and then probably you would have like cash flow within 3 months latest. But right now, what we're looking at is something in the best case like 5 to 7 months, 8 months. So before you even start selling your product, there's so many delays, with the private label. There are a lot of delays with the Chinese factories, with the logistics. So a lot of people, before they start selling it, they have to actually place a new order. So it caused a cash flow problem. So there's so many things going on. Actually, I don't even know like where to start.
Well, that's the beauty of this show. And every time I have a guest or a guest, that's just one person. It's a multitude of or roundtable. Everyone can throw out all these different areas and pain points, but it's funny where everyone's mentioning 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things that can effectively hurt your business or it can help your business. So maybe let's start here. What is a freight forwarder for the listener who may not know the difference between freight forwarder, a logistics specialist, or a supply chain specialist? What really is by definition a freight forwarder?
I think this definition is getting more and more important right now. 2 years ago, if you were running an eBay or Amazon business or wholesale business, you had like just the freight forwarder somewhere around the world, and then you asked them to ship it now. To ship it from your factory to your warehouse or Amazon directly. But now it's getting more and more important for companies to work with the right freight forwarder because you basically need them as a supply chain team right now. You have to plan everything in advance. You need to book the space in advance. Right now, it's not even about like paying double, triple for a container price, but it's hard to find the availability. So I think freight forwarders, especially digitalizing this industry, last year got $20 billion investment. Digital freight forwarding, it's a very growing industry. It's getting more and more important for companies and for individuals to work with the right freight forwarding company. So I think now what I would say is finding or choosing the right freight forwarder will be the key actually to the success. The reason is you have to manage everything perfectly with time wise, place the order on time, book the space in advance, carry it, bring it, do the custom clearance. If you're lucky enough to deliver to, let's say, Amazon FBA warehouse, make an appointment. And even there's a big problem in the West Coast right now. Most of the Amazon sellers, they're trying to ship their products to the West Coast. Number one, it's time efficient. Number two is it's cheaper than shipping to the East Coast. I would say like almost 20 to 25%. So it's even hard to find a truck in the West Coast now, and the truck prices increased double. So if you ask me what is the right way to explain a freight forwarder, I would say like now almost key to the success. It's the one of the most important role right now for success in the e-commerce. As long as you're staying in inventory, then probably you're going to be successful in this business.
So someone who is very efficient in the logistics supply chain, all the way from supplier to getting your goods into an FBA warehouse or to a third-party warehouse. Is that correct? Is that kind of the most efficient and dumbed down version that I can absorb? But so with that being said, we mentioned there's all these different little nuances of the supply chain. We're talking about working in a supplier manufacturer. What's the benefit of working with you? So if I'm a seller for the first time and I said, I just don't have time to figure out logistically all these different nuances and getting my goods, I know where I want to work. I know what I want to sell. I just need to get it to a fulfillment center and start selling right away. I'm going to go to you, Burak, and say, what do we need to do to get going and work together?
There are a lot of obviously logistic companies in the world that you could choose, but I think it's very important to work with a company who knows actually Amazon, who knows e-commerce, and who's actually expert in shipping door to door. What we are specialized in is actually door-to-door service, which means we pick up your shipments, we carry it by air or ocean, deliver it to the destination port, we do the custom clearance on behalf of you, and then pick up the cargo and deliver it. A lot of people think that it's a very complicated process, which is actually it is, but we specialize in e-commerce. That's why we are actually offering this door-to-door. A lot of people in the market probably will know that term, DDP, which means due to delivery paid. So basically we are handling this for our customers A to Z. And we have a digital platform where you can track your shipments online. You can check your invoices, pay them online, see your active offers. One of the most important thing recently is everybody's working remotely. With the pandemic, a lot of people travel to their dream places after the borders start opening. A lot of my friends, they go to Mexico, they go to Costa Rica. Some of them are going to Bali, Indonesia, or Europe, and then they work from home. So the time difference is a big actually problem for a lot of e-commerce sellers to communicate with their suppliers, communicate with their freight forwarders if they work with a company in Asia. So I think it's very important to stay in touch with your supplier and freight forwarder time-wise. So that's what we are offering people to communicate with us 7/24 through our digital platform. And you can track your shipments because imagine you have 5 different shipments. You're selling in Germany, UK, Canada, and US, and all of those shipments are going to different destinations. So each time you want to know when your shipment is going to arrive, you want to ask your freight forwarder. I don't know, a lot of people probably use WeChat, WhatsApp, Skype, email, texting, or phone calls. It can get complicated to know more about your shipments, unless you can just log into your platform and see where's your shipments online, and then you can see your estimated arrival time, the delivery time. This is very important because the market is getting very competitive, and you maybe will like to open a coupon to boost your sale, or you want to increase your PPC budget, or you're running out of stock and you don't know when your shipment is going to arrive, and then you can see your competitors are actually opening coupons. So you want to know, actually, you want to plan your inventory level. You want to know your strategy daily base. So it's very important to track your shipments online and see when they're going to arrive. I think, especially with the 4 quarters coming, I strongly recommend people, if they haven't placed their 4 quarter inventory yet, they should do it, because I think the delivery time is going to be longer than normal time for China, especially raw material prices increasing. If you're doing an electronic business, there's a huge chip shortage in the market. As you know, a lot of car manufacturers actually stopped producing. Stainless steel prices increased 30 to 40%. I don't want to sound like giving you only the negative news, but this is something I think very important to know what is going on in the market, and then you plan your strategy accordingly.
Well, right, and that's being said, we actually had a question that came in already from YouTube from Brandon Young. Brandon asked, shipping prices are increasing day by day, which is true, which we had already talked about. How do you ship to Amazon FBA fast and cheap? Is that working with the digital freight forwarder? Do you get nuanced pricing because they're working directly with you, or is that just a negotiation on the seller with direct suppliers?
Right. I mean, we're pretty transparent with the pricing. I think the most important thing to know right now is to understand your cost. Working with a traditional logistic company, only shipping from port to port, or offering you without the custom clearance, or without including all the costs, might cause you surprises at the end of your shipment. A lot of Chinese freight forwarders, they charge their customers upfront before the shipment leaves the port, and when it arrives to the port, they say, "Oh, we forgot to add this, we forgot to add that." There's the fee of the destination port. There could be a lot of extra charges. So this is something people should actually pay attention. What we do is, for e-commerce sellers, we have flexible payment terms that, if we have an established relationship with our customers, we can offer them a payment option after their shipment is successfully delivered. So that's why we are actually trusting our price transparency. So once we offer the price, all in price, include everything, our customers are very confident to wait until their shipment is completed, the product successfully delivered to Amazon or the third-party warehouse, which we also offer a warehouse servicing in California. After their shipment is delivered, we charge our customers. So it's very important to understand your cost. Brandon is right. Unfortunately, I never seen this in my life. We try to book a space today, and then until we book the space, get the confirmation from the shipping line, especially for ocean, the price can change the next day, or the space can be sold out. I think the best way to ship fast and cheap to the Amazon FBA or the third party or the destination where you're going to do is to plan your inventory, plan your production in advance. I know that a lot of people will think that, I need to pay 30% deposit and I don't have too much maybe cash to pay and keep a lot of inventory in China. But I think not to book last minute your shipment is one of the key way to decrease your cost. I would recommend people to book their shipping space at least 10 days before the production is over. It's very, very important. If you try to ship the last minute, it's hard to find a last minute space. And even if we do, the price is going to be increased, like maybe price going to be higher than regular booking. That's very important. If you're a small seller, or if you have often shipments, let's say 300 kilogram, 500 kilogram, less than 1,000 kilogram, people can consider air shipment recently. The prices are getting lower compared to ocean. So we had a customer in Texas the other day. She wanted to ship 300 kilogram. So door-to-door ocean maybe takes like 30 to 35 days. Air is like 7 to 10 days, calendar days, not business days. The price was almost the same because it's a light shipment. So
yeah, I was going to say, with a lot of our partners that we are speaking with in the supply chain industry, some of them are not even offering water freight anymore. They're actually just only strictly doing air freight for multiple reasons. One would be cost. If you're working with a good that doesn't take it, like you said, under 1,000, you said 10,000 kilograms or 1,000 kilograms?
1,000.
1,000. Okay.
Yeah.
So under 1,000 kilograms, right? It'd be cost effective, but look at the time aspect too. Everyone knows that time is money, and even at Ping Pong, and this is my kind of podium and my platform that I always stay on, is time is money. If you're going to be sitting an extra 15 days with your inventory on water, that's investment that you personally made. You're not selling in that time frame. If you can make the time work for you, right, and get it to your inventory warehouse, or you can get to fulfillment center quicker, that's exactly what you need to calculate as well now, is for that extra 17 days or 15 days between air and freight, or air and water, you have to look at what you can potentially be making at that time, turn over quicker, get more goods in there. And obviously that makes it yourself look good and makes revenues a lot more easier to consume, and go from there.
Another thing to consider is actually there are a lot of delays with the ocean freight right now. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but the south part of China, there's a very big ocean port. Name is Yantian, which is in Shenzhen. They had a COVID breakage maybe 3-4 weeks ago. The port was closed 2 weeks. So imagine there's no container ships could enter or leave the port. So the entire world, same thing happened in the Suez Channel. Like, one container vessel blocked the channel, and then there were like a massive impact on the entire world. We had a shipment to Africa, and then they have nothing to do with Suez Channel, but the container, the container ship couldn't reach the destination and make the way back to that port. So that's why it's like a domino effect, so that's why people should actually consider about at least 1 or 2 weeks delays with the ocean freight right now. Unfortunately, this is something no one can control. A lot of companies are struggling because of this problem. So air freight is a good option. I know it's an expensive option, but people maybe can do, let's say 20 to 25% or 30% by air, the rest of it by ocean. So this way you can make sure you can stay on inventory. Another thing, Ryan, what started happening is with the Amazon FBA limitations right now, with this inventory limits, a lot of people's shipments start getting closed. The reason is Amazon is now giving 90 days window, the day you create your shipment, and then until it arrives to Amazon warehouse. There are a lot of delays with the manufacturer. There are a lot of delays with the transportation. So many people right now are having this problem of they cannot receive their shipments before it close. And it's a massive problem, because imagine you send all the labels to your factory in China. They put the labels that said 200 cartons. You're shipping directly to Amazon, and then the day it arrives to the destination port, your shipment is closed. So what are you going to do? You have to relabel everything, or maybe you have to store it. If you have the limits, you cannot even ship it anymore. So there are a lot of things happening right now. So people should be very, very careful about this also. We start hearing this from a lot of people. They're like, hey, when my shipment is going to arrive, my shipment is almost going to close. So it's a very, very big risk. Imagine you tied up a lot of money and your shipment cannot deliver to Amazon because the shipment is closed, and there's no way to activate it back.
Absolutely. And also Amazon's now counting any freight or any inventory that's on the water or in air now against your inventory limits. So the longer it sits on water or in the air, the longer you can't turn that inventory. So if you're trying to get rid of inventory, if you're having issues with that now, or if you're just effectively trying to not sell through inventory quickly, or you're just trying to manage that level entirely, it is super important to understand like how quickly your goods can get from port to port, and then obviously into a warehouse to sell through as well. Another tip I would also suggest would be to pay in local currency with ping pong. Brandon, if you know this, you can pay in local currency to mitigate that time from longer weeks on end, potentially down to a local currency like the yuan. If you're in the China marketplace, you're paying that in that currency, you can actually effectively cut down, days, if not weeks of time when currency gets converted over. So another little tip, if you are looking to effectively save and put more money towards your bottom margin as well. So that's my little tip, if you will, to effectively work on that. Burak, we had, with like obviously ocean freight and all that going on, it's expensive right now. We alluded to it with inventory limits right now. Amazon has put this crackdown on not just smaller sellers who are getting going throughout this year, but they've actually effectively across the board made sellers understand that FBA warehousing is not a storage facility. It is now effectively a fulfillment center.
Right.
And a lot of people think that that's a ridiculous aspect, but with costs of just storage, they're trying to now effectively get goods in and out of their fulfillment centers quicker. That's effectively what they built up for. Right. So with that being said, what's the pivot that you and your team are doing and working with clients to effectively take that into account now moving forward?
Since last year, Amazon is changing a lot of rules. A lot of Amazon is actually start making their own new strategy. As you said, they used to be a storage facility, now more like a fulfillment center. So a lot of people wake up in the morning and then see that there's like a new news on their Seller Central, and people are getting like really frustrated and furious about the changes. But that's being said, Amazon is doing what is the best for them. So basically, if we're playing this game according to Amazon rules, we have to stay on the game, and we have to find solutions. So we had some customer, they used to keep their stocks in China, and as soon as they have the limits, they just like ship it to Amazon. But now you cannot just ship as many as quantity you want. So it's not really easy to ship bulk cargo directly from China to FBA warehouse. So basically, what people are doing right now is they find a third-party warehouse in United States or Canada or in Europe. I'm not talking about fulfilled by merchant. Like I'm not talking about like sending inventory or fulfillment, but more like a storage facility. And the more limits they have on Amazon, they can ship it immediately within 3 to 4 days. So because let's say you're selling a microphone and you sell 1,000 units per month, and if you sold within 15 days around like 500, Amazon is allowing you to send only like another 500 or maybe 300 or 700. So if you have an inventory, active inventory in whatever the country you're selling the product in, then it's smart way to ship it immediately, and they receive it within, I don't know, 3 to 5 business days. So it takes actually until you prepare, you ship it, it takes 10 days. And then, Amazon is transferring that within their fulfillment center. It takes another, I don't know, 10 to 15 days. So actually, even if you have active stock in whatever the marketplace you're selling in, it takes still almost 15 to 25 days to receive them full in inventory. And imagine you're sending from China with the delays and Amazon checking process and this and that, it might take up to 40 days. So I strongly recommend people to find a fulfillment center, or let's say storage facility, warehouse service in the destination, especially the fourth quarter. I think the delay is going to increase more. So it's very important to have a plan B. For most of the people, I think they already did this establishment. find the right storage partners. I think if you haven't done it yet, I think it's the time.
Absolutely. And that was part of Brandon, who is very active. He already said thanks for the first question. His second question was, again, if you're listening, you can actually submit your questions, whether you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, or just listening online. Feel free to submit your questions. What can I do for not being out of stock, or can I manage my FBA inventory because my products always delay because of CE shipping? So you're saying, I've heard in the past from a lot of other experts in this field of almost like a trickle of fulfillment back to Amazon. You were saying that if you're selling at 500 already, just sending in 100 here or 300 there, and just making sure it's not bulk all at once to refill to your limit, having a consistent flow of smaller inventory, whether it be a week or 2 weeks worth of inventory, to effectively just make sure that it's selling through. And then over time, Amazon will see that turn as more effective throughput and the trust into the seller, so they would start bumping up your limits even more. Is that an effective strategy that you're implementing with your customers?
Yes, I agree with what you're saying, but I think I like to back up a little bit more.
Sure.
From the time you place an order to your factory, whether in China or another destination, maybe I lived in China. I did sourcing long years before we started our freight business. I had a B2B business in China. I moved there when I was like 22 years old, and I didn't know anything about business. And I was traveling middle of nowhere to factories and trying to negotiate with them, like whatever the language I was trying to talk to them, like half English, half Chinese. There's one thing I understand is Chinese factories, they love to receive big orders. So if you have a good established product, if you have a good sales rank, if you know you're selling that product, I would highly recommend, instead of placing monthly orders or every 2 months, you can negotiate. That's a good hack, actually, Ryan, that I'm going to tell now people. Try to make your orders one time every 6 months and place an order enough for, let's say, next 6 months sale. This way you can fix the price. That's a great way to not be affected from the small sparks in the market, like ups and downs. So you don't have to worry about like if the price can increase 2 months from now if you have enough stock. Another thing, people will think that, okay, but I don't have that kind of money. If you place a larger order to the Chinese factory, you can get a better price as well. 2,000 unit price is different than 6,000 unit price. So you're gonna get at least 5 to 10% cheaper price, because they're gonna get the raw material, like bigger quantity. They can make your product. There are two ways to negotiate this. Number one, you can tell them, hey, I want to place an order, let's say larger quantity, and I can only pay you 10% or 15% deposit instead of 30%. Mm-hmm. Most of the Chinese factories right now, they accept this payment term because they need order. They need to secure an order. The worst case, if it doesn't happen 10%, you can still negotiate like 15 or 20%. The way we recommend to our customers, or the way they do, is let's say you order 6,000 microphones. It's enough for next 6 months sale, right? And you place you put 15% deposit. You can tell them not to produce everything. They can keep half of the raw material for you and produce the 3,000 units first, and then you can ship that partially. Let's say you need only 2,000 products. Next order that you receive, you just basically order 6,000 piece. They can produce everything and keep in the stock. Let's say you ship 2,000 piece and you pay full amount of that 2,000 piece, and then you can keep your deposit in the factory, like 10%, 15 or 20% for the rest of the product. So this way they can be sure that you're going to pay the balance and take the product, because it's also a risk for them, to place an order and produce 6,000 piece without you paying them full. So this way, Brandon's question, I know it's a little bit long answer, but it's more about experience also. If you always have enough inventory in China, you can, and if you have a affordable warehouse service, wherever the marketplace you sell, actually, you can ship them in advance, not the last minute that you need. So this way you're gonna you'll always have ready stock in China. If your sales is going high, you can ship it more product because it's already ready. You don't have to wait because recently what we are hearing from the suppliers are they cannot find paper, they cannot find carton box, the price is increasing, delays with the raw material. So, instead of delivering 30 days, some of the products delivers in 60 days, 90 days. But if you have ready stock, you don't have to worry about the price change, you don't have to worry about the delivery time. So this way you can also have more time to ship by sea, and you can do it in advance. So I think, in the very beginning of the conversation, when I said that, logistics or freight forwarder is your supply chain partner now, this is something that, it's important to work with a freight forwarder who knows e-commerce business, who knows the factories, and then we always help our customers like a boutique way to recommend them the strategies. They're calling me like every day, my customers like, Brandon, hey, I'll be out of inventory, what should I do? So this is a way to actually consider other options. Maybe you cannot do this very soon, but this is something you should be considering. Start talking to your suppliers.
Right.
Fourth quarter is coming. The worst thing is right after fourth quarter, Chinese New Year is coming. So the delivery time is going to be even worse. It's going to be even longer. So that's why, if you have some cash, if you know that the fourth quarter sales is good, you're selling, I don't know, maybe giftable items or something related to winter or after Chinese New Year, it's very important now to plan it well and maybe negotiate larger quantities. Try to ask lower deposit, so this way you don't have to put too much cash, and then maybe you will have the ready stock in China. As soon as you need the ship, you can do it. So this way you will be affected less with the ocean freight delays.
Right. I think that's a really good tip, effectively, for advanced sellers or intermediate to advanced sellers. Effectively, we know that when you're starting out, it's hard to forecast, sell through, even negotiating higher rates. You might not have the capital, like you mentioned, but for those who have sold through, have revenue that you're reinvesting back in your inventory limits. Again, this all comes back to playing with your margins and making sure effectively that every dollar counts towards your bottom line. Therefore, you can order larger quantities. You can actually prepare in advance and plan out further. And like you said, I like the tip of place a $6,000 order or 6,000 unit order, effectively make 2,000, have the deposit on for the rest of them. They also have the goods and materials, I'm assuming, on hand, is what I heard earlier. And then effectively, when you need to make those additional orders, you're still working on that first quote unquote order. You're just having them produce it and getting it over to you effectively in time, like we're all used to, but planning in advance. I think that's a really good strategy in terms of that regard. So hopefully, Brandon, that answers your question for some effective ways to help with your inventory issues or just planning in general. For Burak, for my question for you, we talked about Chinese New Year, and you said now is the time you have to order, because for those people who might be new to e-commerce, we know that for a fact, in your experience, in this Chinese New Year affects a lot of different things. It affects shipping time. The whole China, or the whole country, actually effectively goes down. Not goes down, like they don't break down or anything like that. They shut down, and they're going back to their own either towns or their villages, and they're going away for almost a month. When they return back in January, they're actually still retraining new employees, because a lot of the same employees don't come back. There's turnover. They're effectively turning out new product. So that delay actually carries over into January, February time. Let's say, for example, I'm a seller. I have a two-part question. First, when is the deadline? When's the latest you should absolutely make an order for you to get inventory for Q4 and into Q1? What's the absolute latest that they should be making that order?
I think before 15th of July. I think people should be looking at their sales of last year, maybe even 2 years ago, and see what is if you're a new seller, or you're just like new to e-commerce, or you do Shopify, eBay, Amazon, whatever you do, you might think that Chinese New Year is not a big deal. You just like place an order, but actually it's a big deal. And you're very right. Like, a lot of people, they go to their hometowns and they never come back, and the factories don't have enough employees to manufacture or operate. Even the thing is, your product before Chinese New Year and after Chinese New Year can be completely different quality. Right. This is a lot of people actually facing this, and it's very important, Ryan, to make sure that you're talking to someone senior in the company. There are a lot of this is the first time when we talk to in my past experience, if I was going to ever source any product from a Chinese factory, the first thing I ask is, how many years do you work in the company? If they tell me I work only 6 months or 1 year, 3 months, anything less than 2 years, I would definitely ask them to help me to connect with another colleague of theirs, like maybe the director or owner, depends on the size of the factory. So this way, um, unfortunately, because of the cultural thing in China, a lot of salespeople are not decision makers, and we would like. I mean, as a seller, you should definitely want to have the control of everything. We should at least talk to 2 or 3 people from the factory, get the business cards, like the pictures, like a lot of people now using Alibaba only to communicate. But once your sales person who's in charge of your account, if they quit, they leave the company, you have to restart everything, which is a big waste of time. And then you have to, maybe if you're doing a bundle, you're doing a special material like special packing and a gift card, maybe you have a special packaging requirement, and then you have to tell everything from the zero. This is very important to do. And also, as we mentioned, the Chinese New Year is end of January, but the impact actually started because a lot of factories, they stop receiving an order, let's say end of December. Let's say they don't stop receiving an order, but they tell you they cannot ship before the Chinese New Year. So if I were you, I would just say, hey, a lot of Chinese factories are planning their Chinese New Year now. Just ask your supplier, and even if you don't work with China, you work with Taiwan, you work with Korea, you work with all these Asian countries are actually affected from the Chinese New Year somehow, shipping or raw material, or even you work with a Indian factory for it, you maybe manufacture T-shirt, but they buy the machinery, maybe spare parts from China. So it's very tricky. I don't want to confuse people, or I don't want to create a chaos now, but it's very important to check your inventory, start placing your orders like now for the fourth quarter for Chinese New Year, and ask when is their deadline, when the Chinese factory's deadline for receiving the order before they can deliver the products before the Chinese New Year. I think it's the right time to do it in July. So it's also important to fix the price now, because I think the last quarter, the raw material prices will increase, unfortunately, more.
Right. You're talking about not just paper, but we're talking about wood. We're talking about metal. Any of those raw materials that they're going to be purchasing and getting into the country. Again, depending on also where your factory is, it can also be the difficulty and delay nature. We didn't even talk about that. Depending on how close your factory might be to a port, or how farther inland your factory might be located, getting those goods from those locales or those regions all the way to the port can also delay or effectively change the price or the time frame of when you can get your goods. So July 15th, we put it on there for those listening. Hot tip: make sure your inventory is either ordered or secured by July 15th so that you can get it in time, whether it's by air or by ocean freight. Is certainly important to make sure you're working with that, especially in China when delays are so impactful and shipping to the West Coast as well. Kind of on the upswing of this, or the back, that I call the back nine if you're a golf term, of this podcast episode, Burak, what about, so we talked about Chinese New Year. Let's talk about if we're switching a factory in general. Maybe I've outgrown, or the relationship isn't where we want it to be, whether it's working with out through Alibaba, or have boots on the ground. Do we actually found another factory that can grow with us and scale? What is the best way to go about that in your mind? And also, maybe when is the best time to switch a supplier throughout the year? Like I said, I wouldn't guess it would be in July when you want to make the Q4 shipment. When's a good time to do all these kinds of adjustments to your supply chain?
It's a very tricky year to make changes. I believe a lot of different factors involved. China is obviously it's the for private label sellers, it's amazing place to source product. They're very experienced with communication. They're very experienced with shipping process. They're very experienced with place an order. Amazon. Most of the factories, unfortunately, selling directly on Amazon, so they know a lot of things about Amazon. So sourcing product from Amazon, sourcing product from different countries for Amazon could be a little tricky. Like, a lot of people start looking for. Obviously, the prices in China increase because of also the currency. I don't know if people do business with Amazon, they will hear a lot this, unfortunately, from their supplier. Oh, RMB depreciated against US dollar. It lost the value. It's a bad thing for Chinese factories. So they're receiving US dollar from from their customers, and then they convert to the RMB. They're losing money daily basis. So in the beginning, you mentioned, Pioneer is ping pong is a great way to pay in the local currency. A lot of people actually can fix their costs in RMB and place their orders in RMB. So this way, you're not going to have problem at the end of your order delivery to, factories try to adjust their price. They're like, oh, you placed the order in July, we're going to deliver in September. Now we are losing 3 to 4% in US dollars. So can you help us with 2%? And every dollar counts, as you said. Like, it's very, very important to know your cost. It's very, very important to know how much you're paying and whether you're going to have a currency risk or not. It's the same with other countries. Especially, countries like, I don't know, in South America, like Middle East or East Europe, countries who don't use euro or US dollar, they have this problem this year because of a lot of impact. So it's important, even if you source from China or outside of China, it's important to have the option pay in the local currency. I personally always ask factories, what happens if we pay in yuan? What happens if we pay in RMB? Or you work with maybe Vietnam or India, you can say, can we pay in your local currency? A lot of people think that, hey, I cannot do that. I don't have a Chinese bank account. I don't have a bank account in Hong Kong. What I'm going to do? So I think ping pong is a great way to pay in local currency. Always ask, what is the price? What's the breakdown? Ask for the breakdown price. One time I went to a Chinese factory in Shanghai, and then we were sourcing a product. It's a security device, and they told me very expensive price in US dollar. I'm like, it makes no sense, because I lived in China. I knew the cost of the plastic. I knew the cost of this and that. And then once they calculate in RMB, they're like, wait a second, I think we made a mistake. Yes, you're right. This product cannot be $8, $9. It has to be like $6. So it's also important to, do research. Definitely look outside of Alibaba. You can do different research. You could use Baidu as a Chinese platform to source. I know it's not that easy, but you can use always translation. It's possible. Maybe Yandex or different browsers to check if you do any business with China. But outside of China, it's also important to understand the cost of the material, cost of shipping. We have some customers. China is such an advanced country, Ryan, now for international business. Everything is great established. Everything is working like a machinery. You pick up, you find a truck in one day, you ship it, you reserve. It's not the same with other countries yet, unfortunately. Shipping from Vietnam, right. Maybe you find a product in Vietnam cheaper in India, but the local charges are higher, the truck fees are higher. There's not enough cargo is shipping out from those countries, so actually the destination fees are higher. So we have a customer who placed an order, some I think coffee tables or bar stool. I can't remember the product name. They ordered from India for 1 or 2 CBM. The cost was so high. I was even surprised. I'm like, why is it that high? But that's the reason. If you ship it from China, we have our own container. We consolidate our customers' product and then ship it by ourselves. But we cannot do that from India yet, because it has not been that established. So when you want to source a new product from a different country, definitely I think everybody should start looking for it. Even if you don't place a bulk order, maybe order some samples. it's a great time to plan the 2022. I mean, when you told me, we already finished the two quarters, this is the third quarter, I'm like, wow, this year was like really, really fast actually. So I think it's important to place an order, and then again, PingPong is a great way to pay 4 or 5 different suppliers separately in RMB or Turkish lira or ruble. You can pay in a local currency. Otherwise, you have to pay. Some of our customers are asking for a favor. Hey, can you help us to pay these 5 different Chinese supplier and receive the samples and ship it to us? They don't want to pay $30 international wire fee for 5 samples because the sample costs like $10.
Exactly.
So it's a great way to look for alternative markets, do a research. One of my customers actually looking for an alternative market in Vietnam, but they told me like communication is that good. So it's a good way to start testing, because if you don't test and if you just like decide to go and place an order one factory from Thailand, one factory from Vietnam, you can have like problem. At least Chinese factories, they know the business, they know the delivery time, unless you really run into some big problem. I strongly recommend people to do inspection before place an order, especially if it's a new country. I heard a lot of, I don't want to accuse like or stereotype any certain country, any certain people, nation, whatever, but I heard a lot of people, there are a lot of scam or a lot of fraud, like, countries like maybe sometimes like Egypt or Thailand, because a lot of people just create a website and then, place an order. They say that this is our facility or not. Even with the China or any country in the world, I strongly recommend people to, before place an order, definitely send an inspector to factory before place an order. A lot of people think that they want to send an inspector when their shipment finish. I mean, when their production is over, it's ready to ship. But no, you need to send an inspector if you decide to place an order before, because now it's very important to see the facility, if they're capable of, enough employees, see what kind of product they have in their warehouse, if they work with some good brands, like, I don't know, from UK, US, Europe, or like, some developed countries, maybe, like if they're like working with big brands, or like they only manufacture no brands and then no good quality. So many things flying around my head, Ryan.
We're gonna have to have you on for part 3 and part 4. I always tell this to my guests, the hour is never long enough. But to kind of recap for the listener out there who's listening to all this and kind of putting a nice bow on it, obviously there's pros and cons from every country they're gonna be sourcing from. China happens to be one of the most efficient and effective and most advanced countries, and you've seen it firsthand, Burak, of being there in person. They've invested in shipping and supply chain and logistics component of their ecosystem and economy. That's why it's cheap to source from there, because labor is cheap, but also because their efficiencies are higher. You get your goods quicker. Other nations haven't caught up, but you're certainly seeing a lot of people diversify their supply chain. And by that meaning, if something happens and you get delays significantly from your Chinese manufacturer, a tip I would suggest for sellers would be to make sure you have your spec sheet and you can have it ready at other factories, whether it be in different nations or even other factories around the country. If something happens to delay your goods, you can maybe negotiate or build relationships with that second or third supplier. Make sure that you have good relationships. And if something shuts down or if pandemic hits or anything like that, it makes them impossible for them to fulfill your order, you have that backup plan. So that it's ready to be produced in different countries. Your second tip would be to, like, obviously we have partners with like Mavli for inspections. I know you have lots of great resources too that I'm sure you talk about with great inspection companies, to make sure that your goods and you're working with a reputable resource, and making sure, you're investing in a great quality company or resource, either checking with Alibaba to make sure, hey, I've been around longer than a year, maybe 5 years or so, looking at the seniority, looking at reviews and ratings, and just double checking, making sure that they're reputable manufacturing facilities.
There's something I would like to add. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
But, no, go ahead.
Let's say you work with a factory like over the years. Sometimes, things can get like lazy or like, too comfortable. If you find an alternative factory, if you believe that the sample is good, you could do a trial order. You could try to send your other factory without the name. You could send how much you're paying. You can maybe send a bank slip. Chinese people like to see that you actually do real business with other companies. And you could place an order. Let's say if your regular order is like 3,000 units, you could order 500 pieces from a new factory. So this way you don't risk too much. And you could order 2,500 pieces from your existing factory. So this way you can see how good is the service from the new factory, if they are respecting the delivery times that they promise, if the quality is good. So you're not going to lose too much with 500 pieces. Like, even if you pay a little bit more, but you have the plan B always. And also it's very, very important to sort of make your existing factory to feel that you're looking for an alternative. Maybe that's a bad thing to say. I can see that you're a little bit smiling, Ryan, but it's good way to like wake up your supplier also, like, hey guys, I'm still looking for alternatives. So this way, you could always keep them active. You can always keep them like doing a good job for you. You never know what can change. A lot of companies, they go bankrupt in China because sometimes the factories are saying that they have to pay cash to raw material, which is actually really correct. I have a lot of close friends in China that they used to have 1 month or 2 month payment term with their supplier raw material. And let's say you're buying a microphone again, you have the cable supplier, you have the bracket supplier, you have the chip supplier. Maybe microphone has like 10 different components and they have 10 factory, they have 10 suppliers, vendors to produce this product, and then half of them now asking for a cash. So it's important to support your factory, to keep the good relationship. Of course, cash is always important for business owners, especially this year. Increasing quantity, asking for a lower deposit, I think could be a good way to start negotiation for your larger orders for the last quarter, fourth quarter.
Absolutely. And I'm smiling because it's all right. You want to make sure you're making effective decisions for your business. At the end of the day, you are the customer, but you want to have a good working relationship. For them not knowing, like you said, effectively making sure that they don't become lazy or they're constantly putting out great quality product is always important for businesses as well. Burak, before I let you go, I know you wanted to mention a couple of quick things. For anyone with Forceget or any customer of PingPong's or listener to PingPong's, we want to make sure that we give you kind of a different kind of platform to make sure that if they want to work with you, or if they like what they hear, if they are looking for a different freight forwarder for the first time, what would be the best way to like connect with you? And then obviously anything you have going on there.
So yeah, I think working with us could make their life easy. We have the digital platform. You can sign up, you can explore it, you can request an offer. Our website is forceget.com. Probably will drop the link later for the video. And if you guys can send us a message, PingPong 150, we are offering $150 shipping, international shipping credit for the first time users. It's a special offer for PingPong listeners and then Ryan's fans, I would say.
All my fans out there, the listeners, my people.
There are a lot of people, they listen to your podcast. I know that. And then other partners that we work with, they also who has been a guest to your podcast, they were like telling me, that was like really fun to be on Ryan's podcast. I really
damn right it is on a Friday, especially. That's a good thing to hear going into the weekend.
PingPong 150 for $150 first international shipping bonus. The people can use it as a discount from their first invoice. And feel free to reach me from the website, or you can send an email, sales@forceget.com. You can also go to our website and see our contact information, like WhatsApp, WeChat, Skype. We use all sort of communication, and we have FBA dedicated logistic team in different parts of the world. So it's very easy for people to use our service in Europe. They have the account reps in the real time they can speak with, or US and Asia. There's no more, I think, time zone. There's no such thing in the world. The world is moving so fast. So we have to move forward with that.
Excellent. Of course, yeah. And we put that in the comment section for people who are watching and listening. Again, it's going to be the comments and show notes section, no matter where you're picking up this podcast from. Burak and his team are standing by, obviously, sales at forceget.com, or you can just go to forceget.com in general to check out what they do, what they can help with. And as always, I wanted to make sure I showed this too as well. Friend of the show, Robbie Stanley. See you at Prosper in a few days.
Oh, nice.
And great show, Ryan. So that's obviously to boost both of our egos. Great show, both of us. So good job, Burak, as always. Fountain of knowledge that you're sharing with us too. There's so much we didn't dive into, but I think that's a testament of how experienced and how exciting that it is to be in this industry. It's a big puzzle, like we've alluded to in multiple different ways over the course of the past few weeks, months. It feels like years now, but this is part of the solution. They need to take your business to the next level to effectively grow internationally, but also build your business, your margins in your business a little bit more than what you could have by yourself. So it's always important to rely on partners and growth partners like a PingPong or like a Forceget. So thanks for hopping on Crossover Commerce today, and we'll make sure we catch you again here shortly. Safe travels south of Prosper, and we'll catch you next time.
Whoever is coming to Prosper, feel free to reach. I'll be very happy to meet in person as well. There's still a lot to talk, as you mentioned, Ryan.
Yeah, and a quick little shout out for a Prosper show for ping pong. Go ahead and stop by booth 2137 at Prosper Show. Again, it's July 13th and 15th at Las Vegas. Don't want to miss it. We're actually going to be by the Jungle Scout and the Gatita booth. So if you know where that is, we're looking for both of those, and ping pong will be in between there. I will not personally be there, unfortunately, but I know a lot of my great colleagues will be there to answer any of your questions for ping pong. And of course, stop by Burak's booth as well, and his team will be there. So definitely stop by and say hi and let him know you listen to Crossover Commerce. So that being said, thank you so much, sir, for hopping on, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you everyone for tuning into Crossover Commerce. This is my show. Again, this is my corner of the internet where I bring the best and brightest in the Amazon e-commerce space. That being said, I want to thank all of our guests this week, including today, Burak over at Forceget. His digital freight forwarding team are going to be a great help to you with building out your relationships with suppliers and manufacturers. So go ahead and check them out. Again, make sure you use PingPong 150 for some savings there as well, and let him know that you listen to Crossover Commerce. What are your thoughts, audience? If you are still listening to this, what are your thoughts on what we covered today? What are your pros and cons with working with freight forwarders? Maybe let us know if you have any thoughts, or if you didn't agree with us, or if you thought it was a great tip or nugget that you was hidden in there. Let us know. Go ahead and tag us and let us know in the comment section, and make sure that you always like and share this episode, as well as Crossover Commerce on all your favorite platforms where you listen to podcasts. I'm Ryan Cramer, the host of Crossover Commerce. Take care, everyone. We'll catch you next time on Crossover Commerce.